In this video, I would like to talk about Descartes' first meditation, and we're going to go over the first slide presentation on the first meditation, reason for doubt. And we'll get to what reason for doubt means in a bit, but let's first start with false beliefs. Let me start with this quotation from Descartes. Some years ago, I was struck by how many false things I had believed and by how doubtful was the structure of beliefs that I had based on them. What Descartes is talking about here are false beliefs. So let's start with a belief. What is a belief? A belief is simply something that you think is true. So take some statement. For instance, take the statement, there are two people on my front lawn. Now that's a belief if I think it's true. Now what would make it a false belief? Well, it would be a false belief if I believe it and it's actually false. So let's say I believe that there are two people on my front lawn and it turns out there are three people on my front lawn. Then I have a false belief. What would make it a true belief? Well, it will be a true belief as long as it's true. If I believe that there are two people on my front lawn and there are two people on my front lawn, then it's a true belief. Now that doesn't mean it's knowledge. Perhaps I just believe there's two people on my front lawn without any evidence, for no reason. Then we wouldn't call that knowledge. What would make it knowledge? Well, if I went to my front door, opened the door and looked out and saw two and only two people on my front lawn, then we might want to say that I know that there are two people on my front lawn. Now, what is the problem with false belief is that Descartes is a foundationalist when it comes to knowledge. He thinks we build knowledge on top of other beliefs. Well, if I have false beliefs and then I build knowledge on top of them, then those beliefs are likely to be false. And that is a problem. How do we correct this problem? Descartes thinks we need to get rid of our false beliefs and build a new foundation. That's how we correct this problem. He writes, I realized that if I wanted to establish anything in the sciences that was stable and likely to last, I needed just once in my life to demolish everything completely and start again from the foundations. By sciences, he means all fields of knowledge. So he wants to build a structure for all knowledge, a solid structure. And that means you can't have any false beliefs, especially false beliefs in the foundation. Now, how do we demolish these false beliefs? Well, first we have to realize we have many, many of them. So think about all the beliefs you have, probably millions. How many are false? You don't really know, but you're pretty sure you got some false ones in there. So how are we going to get rid of them? Well, he thinks we get rid of them by what he calls suspending judgment or withholding assent. Here's what he writes. My reason tells me that as well as withholding assent from propositions that are obviously false, I should also withhold it from ones that are not completely certain and indubitable. So what does suspend judgment mean or withhold assent mean? Well, if you think about any statement, such as there are two people on my front lawn, we can either believe that it's true, believe that it's false, or we can suspend judgment and not form a belief one way or the other. Now, Descartes is telling us if a certain belief or proposition or statement is obviously false, then we should do what? We should suspend judgment. That's what he's saying. But remember, he wants to find a secure foundation for knowledge. So he doesn't want any beliefs that might be false in there, that are doubtful. So he only wants beliefs that are certain, completely certain, and what he calls indubitable, cannot be doubted. So what Descartes is telling you to do is suspend judgment on any ideas, statements, beliefs that might be false, right? Even if it's a small probability of falsehood, you should still suspend judgment because you don't want that possibly false belief in your foundation. Well, why not? Let's go to the next slide. Indubitability and certainty. Because if a belief is not indubitable, if it can be doubted, that means there's some probability that it's false. And even if that probability is small, if that belief or that statement is in your foundation and you use it to build upon, then it might be false. And so the beliefs you build upon it might be false as well. In fact, the likelihood of their being false increases as you build upon it. We can see that if you think about what's going on down here in the second paragraph. If you have a belief that's you're 90% certain about, and another belief you're also 90% certain about, and you use both of them to build a third belief or to create a third belief on top of them, then the likelihood that that belief is false will be even greater. And so what's going to happen here is you're going to quickly approach a situation where it's becoming more and more likely that some of your beliefs are false. And Descartes wants to avoid that. So he doesn't want to start with any beliefs that might be false. He only wants to start with beliefs that have to be true, that are indubitable. And now we're ready to talk about reason for doubt. So all I need for the purpose of rejecting all my opinions is to find in each of them at least some reason for doubt. And what is a reason for doubt? A reason for doubt is simply an explanation or a description of how a belief could be false, how it might be false. A reason for doubt is not saying that a belief is false. It's just saying that it's possible that it's false. And Descartes is saying no matter how small that possibility is, if it seems that a belief could be false, then you should suspend judgment about that belief, push it aside, and keep searching for a belief that has to be true, for a belief that is indubitable. That's what we want in our foundation. Now, how are we going to do this? We have so many beliefs, we can't go through them one at a time. So what Descartes proposes is that we look for the principles upon which our beliefs are based. And we're going to see in the next slide presentation number 2 on the first meditation, Descartes is going to start talking about the senses. He's going to start talking about how many of your beliefs are based on your sensory experiences, what you see, what you hear, and so on. And so that's what we're going to move on to in the next slide presentation.